Jamal Murray, as we all kind of knew, but we got confirmation yesterday that Nuggets stud Jamal Murray has torn his ACL. He is out for the year. And I think this is a dramatic twist. Obviously, it's a huge blow for the Denver Nuggets. And when I look at what Murray's impact to that team is, he's kind of the engine that makes that thing go. And yeah, they have other guards, but they don't have another Jamal Murray. And as much as I love the Aaron Gordon trade, as much as I still think, and now I think it'll be defined whether or not Nikola Jokic is the NBA MVP, I think he's got a real chance to show that and to show out. But I think this is no longer an NBA championship competitor, or contender is probably the better word. I think without Jamal Murray, Jake, the Nuggets don't have a chance to win a championship now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult for them. I think the only saving grace for the Nuggets just would be that they have shown to be a very gritty, a very nose to the grindstone kind of team culturally. And I think that the only reason that really matters is just because when you lose a guy that's on the level of Jamal Murray's level, like who's that kind of guy to your team, obviously that's going to be a lot of adversity in your locker room, and I think that they need to find a way to come together. And Nikola Jokic is going to have to start being a 40-point-a-night guy every single night. That's what's going to happen if they hope to make a finals appearance, because 25 and 15 isn't going to be good enough anymore. He's got to step up to that next tier of production and get to 35, 40 a night. And I think that I agree that it's going to be really difficult for them to certainly they're going to be in the postseason. I don't think anybody doubts that. But I think that it's going to be difficult for them to make their run through the playoffs. Now, with that said, they're still a difficult team to play. It's not a cakewalk to beat them. It's no easy feat. But they can be had now. And I think that is the giggest difference, and I think that it's a huge. When you look at the landscape of the West, Nuggets losing Jamal Murray kind of gives them a step back. You look at the Lakers now having this momentum with their bench squad playing almost every night now, winning these games while they wait for LeBron and AD. They've got momentum. The Suns have momentum. The Jazz certainly have momentum. So there's just been this big kind of shift in momentum in the West, and it's crazy to see.
Yeah, I think the other thing that if you pay attention, and somebody asked me on YouTube yesterday, is this a Jazz show? Why do you guys only talk about the NBA Western Conference? Well, mainly because our largest portion of fans are Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and LA, and that's where the main portion of our listenership is. But we talk all NBA on this show, and I think when you look at the Western Conference in particular, there's a lot more intrigue in the West than there is in the East. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Certainly with the saga of the Lakers' injuries and the way that all the contenders in the West went out and got better, whether that's Rajon Rondo in Clipperville, whether that is, again, Aaron Gordon with the Nuggets. The only team that didn't get better was the Utah Jazz. But all of a sudden, it feels like they got an addition because Bojan Bogdanovic has refound himself. And last night, wearing red Adidas, again, as you so succinctly pointed out, and I appreciate your awesomeness on the shoe game notifications, Bogey's put on red Adidas, Jake, and all of a sudden, he's back to his game. Yeah. And I think it's about a lot more than just three-point shots.
Yeah, I think he's got his confidence back. You can clearly tell that. I think that Quinn Snyder did a really solid job kind of, picking the lock that is Bogdanovic's confidence level. And what I mean is that Bogdanovic had started missing. I think at one point, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, we had talked about at one point Bogdanovic was shooting like 19% from three or something. It was embarrassing. So what did he do? What did Quinn Snyder have Bojan Bogdanovic do? He had him drive the paint, play physical, see the ball, go through the hoop. That's what he had him do. And now what we're seeing is not only can he do that, but now he's starting to make the three at his usual rate, the rate that he's made it at for his career, the rate that they would expect him to, the rate that, frankly, they need him to be making it at. And so you combine that with the way Donovan Mitchell's playing, giving you 35 to 40 a night, upping his average points per game to like 28 a night. And I think that overall, they're just in a pretty solid place last night. I look at the West and I say to myself, okay, yeah, this is the Jazz's conference to lose, obviously, but I think that come postseason time, I can't confidently say that they're just going to run through the Western Conference. I think it's going to be a battle to the death. I look at the Suns matchup; they're very even. I look at what the Clippers are doing. I don't know what Paul George has changed. I don't know like what the formula is for him to play this well, but he's found something, and so he's playing really well. So you have all these teams that are mainstays in the Western Conference that seem to be getting hot at the right time of year, and now we're going to the postseason, and the Jazz are going to have an absolute battle on their hands to get to the NBA Finals.
You know, a battle to get to the NBA Finals. I think if you were asking me today, I think it's going to be Clippers and Jazz. Mm-hmm. That's just what
in the
feels,
Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, that's what feels right to me. In the East, I think this game in Philly tonight is a must-win for the Nets. And I say that because there's a lot of people, including us, questioning whether or not the Nets are truly an elite, best-in-the-business basketball team. James Harden hasn't played in 6 years, it feels like. Kyrie's got all kinds of family issues all of a sudden. And Kevin Durant is just scoring the basketball like he's never missed a minute in his life. Did you see some of that last night?
Yep.
Or, excuse me, yesterday afternoon in Minneapolis?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's easy for him.
I'm not saying the Timberwolves are a great team. They didn't play bad defense on Kevin Durant.
No.
And it was just all net.
And that's what I'm saying. When you have, and this is the conversation we have when we talk Booker versus Mitchell, when you have the size that Kevin Durant has, the guy is 6'10". I mean, he's damn near a 7-footer. So when you're at the elbow, you can just shoot right over, Anthony Edwards. You can just shoot right over the defender who is on your hip, And for him, that's a wide open look. That even if you're right on him, that is a wide open look. And then you combine that with the physical play going to the rack, and you're like, man, like how do we stop this guy? Oh wait, that's right, you don't stop him. That's why he's one of the most prolific scorers the league's seen. And I think that the Nets, you're totally right about this game tonight. This is a prove-it game. This is a benchmark on your schedule game.
Absolutely.
This is a game where you want to send the message to Philly that, hey, when we meet you in the postseason, you better be, not scared of us, but you better know what's coming. You better be ready to play because we're not going to allow Joel Embiid to go for 40 tonight. We're not going to allow these guys to just go off. And I think that the Nets are I do believe that they are the best team, but I do also believe that they need to prove that. You need to show us that you're the best team. I think on paper, they're easily the best team in the league without even a doubt about it. But you got to go out there on the court and prove it. And that's what this game is about tonight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's one of those things where you look at the way the Nets are playing, and you look at the drip and the swag. You like did you hear the tone? Swag.
Yeah, you're really starting to catch up with the cool kids
professional announcer guy.
Yeah, drip, swag, crispy.
Swag, they crispy, man. But if you look at the way the Nets play on a regular basis, they do have that aura about them that we really don't care who you are or what you do. We're better than you. But we haven't seen that lately because I think they don't have that without James Harden.
Yeah.
I think when Harden and KD play together, they're a really good team.
Yep.
I don't know what they are when Harden, KD, and Kyrie play together.
Yeah, I don't know.
We just don't see it.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised, frankly. I do think that obviously with Kyrie being out and all this injury management they're doing, it goes without saying that they haven't had a lot of opportunity to play all three guys together.
Right.
But I also think that, at some point, what are we in? We're in mid-April right now. So by the end of May, or by the end of this month, you really got to start playing these guys together almost on a nightly basis if that's your plan for the postseason, which I would think it is. I mean, I don't know why. I would think that James Harden would play the 1, Kyrie's going to play the 2. You're going to have Joe Harris at the 3, KD's at the 4, and DeAndre Jordan's at the 5. Sorry. Had a brain fart there.
DeAndre, your mom.
Yeah, DeAndre who? And he'll be playing the 5. And so that's their starting 5, or what it should be. We just haven't seen that. So we're going to start seeing it, I feel like. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, on a lot of levels, I'll be interested to see exactly how the Nets come together, because I don't know that we know that. I don't know that we know their peak at this point, right? I think we know the best the Phoenix Suns have to offer. I think we know the best that the Utah Jazz have to offer. I don't think we'll ever see the best this season anyway out of the Denver Nuggets, because Jamal Murray, I think, again, I just don't think they're NBA contenders anymore, and that hurts to say that. But when I look at teams like the Clippers, we haven't seen their best yet, and that's frightening. When I look at the Nets, we haven't seen their best yet, and that is frightening. Good morning, Eric and Raleigh says Kyrie is killing the Nets. I don't know about killing the Nets. I think he changes the Nets. Lopes fan Gabe, good morning to you. He says, morning, fellas. 4:15 cardio came early this AM after GCU's walk-off over number 16, U Arizona Sweaty Sean's in extra innings. Well worth it.
Oh, my God, dude.
Gabe, you and I both know.
Yes.
You and I both know that Sweaty Sean got fired after he was, caught on multiple FBI wiretaps, but he did nothing wrong, and we shouldn't take the word of other people who said he did.
Uh-huh.
You're going to believe what that guy says?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, no, I'm not going to do it. The point is, way to get up early, way to get your cardio in. Appreciate that. By the way, the gym is going quite well for us.
Uh-huh.
We're going to the gym at lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, Jake never shows up on time, and I'm a
Here
guest
we
on
go.
Jake's Vasa Fitness, membership. I'm a guest, so I can't go in without him. And you just decide not to show up on time when it's time to work out. So we work out for 12 minutes, and I do what I can do.
Excellent strategy, sir.
I do what I can do. Anyway.
I was late one day.
Multiple times.
No.
We are working out at lunch. I think it's going quite well.
Yeah, it goes by fast. So, Gabe was just obviously talking about the fact that, he's been getting up early and doing his workouts that way. And for us, we don't really have that option because, we do this thing called the Monty Show. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
No. Say it right. We don't have that option because we sacrifice our lives to serve you.
Well, we do. It's
the
true.
great folks of the world. I would like to mention, though, that also this show has gone global.
Really?
Yeah, we're getting spam from Iran now in the comments on YouTube.
Well, what about Paul Pierce and turkeys? Anybody from turkeys?
Hello. That's Paul Pierce, who I thought he was on TV at one point until he got naked with strippers. Anyway, the point is, in the NBA's Western Conference, I still think if I had to rank them right now today, it'd be Clippers, Jazz, Suns.
Yeah.
I feel like those three. And then the Nuggets now would be fourth. I think, and I know that seems like a complete tank, but without Jamal Murray, I think they don't, that clutch gene that he brought, that killer instinct that he brought, that we saw him and Don battle in the bubble last year, I think you can't replace that.
You can't. You can't teach it. It's just something you either have or you don't. So
yeah. And by the way, Paul George, you mentioned Paul George a minute ago. He claims it's a mental change, that he has switched gears mentally, and that's why he's elite. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Okay, well, whatever the case may be, guy, why don't you just not switch back to the soft Paul George and just stay in this zone?
He's got this toe injury that I'm telling you is incredibly painful.
Yeah, but apparently it's not painful enough to bother him or keep him from performing at a high level. And that's the thing.
Well,
I feel like a lot of these NBA guys, NBA stars, like the Kyries, the Paul Georges, some of these guys are very soft mentally. They know that they're really good. They know that they can't be replaced. So basically, they know that they're untouchable and can do what they want. And I think that is the frustrating part about a guy like Paul George or Kyrie Irving. Those guys could have much better careers. You could win more championships. You could do more things. Right now, I don't think we can say that Paul George is a Hall of Famer. He's a really good player.
Ooh, boy, that's an interesting
But
question.
I don't think that we could say Paul George is a Hall of Famer right now.
What would it take for you to say that?
I think he needs to win a little bit. Now, I'm not saying championships, but I think he needs to cement himself as a killer.
Oklahoma City was a complete failure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way he left the Pacers was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tend to agree with you a little more that I think Paul George has to win. I think he's probably, if he retired today, he'd be on the line. Because I think there's an odd stigma around Paul George that he's soft mentally. And it's odd. NBA guys that I talk to think that he is just not normal. Mm-hmm. And he's this odd duck. And he's not universally liked or respected, which is weird because Paul George is very talented.
Yeah.
And the whole dissing of the Lakers thing, I think nobody ever talks about that, but I don't know how many people know this. Paul George made it very clear he wanted to be a Laker, and that's where he was going. And the Lakers went after him, and he's like, no, I don't want to play for you. I'm actually going to go to the Clippers.
It's weird.
And a lot of people will tell you that changed the perception of Paul George even more than bailing on OKC did. I think he's done a lot of damage to himself. I think he needs to win a championship to make that right with the Clippers.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win a championship with Kawhi and the Clippers, it's not going to be Kawhi Leonard's fault because Kawhi's already a champion.
Yeah.
Multi-time champion, multi-time MVP.
Uh-huh.
Like, Kawhi Leonard's a Hall of Famer right now.
Yeah.
Paul George is not. And I think that's an interesting point you bring up. The more I'm talking through this, the more I'm convincing myself that, I think he has to – I actually think he's going to have to win a championship with the Clippers to make his image over.
Yeah.
But I think he needs to play at an elite level in the playoffs for several seasons in a row if he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I think that's an excellent point by you.
I just think think about the moments, though. Like, you talk about how bad it went in OKC. Think about the Dame shot over him. Think about them getting sent home on a 35-foot jumper over Paul George. I mean, you think about all these things, and you're like, damn, dude, like, we need more from him. He needs to do some more things in the league. He's in the Hall really good right now, and so I don't know. I think that the Clippers are a very good team. I think that Paul George is an excellent player. I love watching him play. But yeah, I think his antics have hurt him. But needless to say, I still maintain that it's the Jazz and another team. The Jazz are going to be in the Western Conference Finals. It all depends on who they play. That really, I can confidently say that I think they'll get to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, the Clippers.
The Jazz.
Oh, the Jazz.
Yeah.
I think the Clippers will get to the Western Conference Final.
So Jazz, Clippers in the West.
I feel pretty confident about that. I just something tells me the Suns are missing a piece. I think they're going to come up short, unfortunately, because obviously I'd love to see Devin Booker play for a conference championship. I am really excited to see him play in some high leverage games.
What do you make though of the Suns Jazz matchup that we just saw recently? Like, is that realistic? Do you feel like that's a realistic showing of what we'll see in the postseason? If they match up?
I do. I think the Suns are an impossible matchup for the Jazz.
Yeah.
I think especially in Phoenix, which is why I would favor the Jazz because they would have home court advantage.
Yeah.
But I think the way that the Suns are built, and I think we saw this the other night in that loss at home against Washington, the Suns are built similarly. They can attack you defensively. When the Suns are playing defense, they can attack the three-point line, which is always the way that you're going to beat the Utah Jazz. And I know that Jazz fans don't like that, and I know that they feel like that's uncomfortable for them, but you're going to have to come to grips with the fact that that's how teams are scheming to beat the Jazz. So you saw it with Lou Dorton in OKC last night.
Yeah.
And this was a comfortable win. I never felt like OKC was going to win this game. But I don't think there's any question that Dort, again, showed you smaller athletic guards are going to dominate the Jazz because they don't have a way to match up with that. Mike Conley can't stay in front of a guy like Dort. And if you think about not having Royce O'Neal, who, by the way, has just been garbage.
Yeah.
Royce O'Neal has just absolutely disappeared offensively.
Yeah, and I think that was part of why he got rested last night because that he is basically turned into he's going to guard. He's basically turned into your shutdown corner in basketball. I'm going to guard the best player on the other team every single night, whether it's Devin Booker, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, any of these guys that they're playing against. And I think that it's unrealistic to ask Royce O'Neal to guard the best player and then go ahead and give you 15 to 20 points a night. I just think that that's unrealistic. I think that there are some players who can do that. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George.
Yes.
But Royce O'Neal is not that player. He's not on that level, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand that he's not Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. So I think it's unfair if people are criticizing him for not doing offense when he's working his ass off on defense.
Well, what I also think is interesting is Marcus makes an interesting point about Paul George. Marcus says, we've never seen this Paul George before. So I guess I feel like we've never seen these Clippers before. Well, I mean, I think we've said this before, that this team doesn't go as Kawhi Leonard goes.
Yeah.
I think this team goes as Paul George and Zubats go. Mm-hmm. When Ivica Zubats is playing good basketball like we saw again last night, I think he's absolutely a difference maker because he's not a traditional 5. He really moves well. He runs well. He defends well. He's a wanting defender. But I think Paul George, and I absolutely think Rajon Rondo is a game changer for this Clipper team. So maybe I'm wrong. Sean on YouTube also says the Clippers have a big problem that they can't win in the playoffs. I don't think they make the conference championship.
I think they got to show that.
Yeah, I don't know that Sean's wrong. I actually think he's right. They haven't shown as a collective or that this group can win at a very high level.
I would say that on that first comment, the one about we haven't seen this Paul George before, the only time in his career that I think we've seen anything close to this is when he was a Pacer and they were playing LeBron James's Miami Heat, and he absolutely destroyed Birdman in the paint on that dunk in the postseason.
Right.
And he had to drive by LeBron to do it. And I think that was Paul George arriving. And I think in that series, he was an absolute stud. And then he basically went to die for a couple years after the leg injury, OKC. You know, there just was a lot that he went through. And I think, I don't know if now he's just finally rebounding, because it does, like, if you break your leg the way he broke his leg in a gnarly fashion, it's going to take you time to trust your leg again and kind of get back to the badass that you were.
I just don't think that's a factor for him. I think he's mentally soft.
But what is the difference, though? Like, what is that? When you say he's mentally soft, what does that mean exactly?
I think Paul George suffers from what a lot of high-level achievers suffer from, which is inconsistent confidence. And I don't believe that throughout his career that Paul George has always believed that he's a killer. I don't think that Paul George has always believed that he's some elite top-of-the-world basketball player.
Right.
And I don't care who you are, whether you are Michael Jordan, or you are Matthew Dellavedova dickhead. I actually think it's pronounced Dellavedova. I'm not sure. Different countries, different pronunciations, whatever.
Turkeys.
Exactly right. He's from Turkeys. The point is, you're an idiot. The point is, how do you get that wrong? The point is, I don't think Paul George has always believed, and he's kind of hinted at this and talked about it now, that he's had confidence issues.
Yeah.
And he's had a performance coach. Which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you're struggling from confidence, anybody that has to perform, look at us, we're in sales.
Yeah.
Right? When you are in sales, you have to have coaching.
Yeah.
You have to. But it has to be from somebody that you believe in, who's done what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's very difficult to do that when you don't believe that you're elite. And now I think he's in a situation where he's finally starting to let all of that Laker, OKC, broke my leg, dunked on Birdman.
Yeah.
He's starting to let that go.
Yeah.
And he's starting to get back to being Paul George. Damn this toe injury that he says has taken his explosiveness away. I haven't seen that. He's dunking on fools every night.
Yeah.
But I just think that Paul George is a different kind of player. Mm-hmm. You know, and I actually think Barry makes a really good point. Barry says, all sarcasm and seriousness aside, which I think he meant to say in all seriousness with sarcasm aside. Nobody said you're an English major, Barry. He said, if you look at players who change, where's his comment? If you follow guys who have had an upward tick in their NBA production, yes, I'm talking about Julius Randle, but Paul George too, it's because they have no choice. They're at a tipping point.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point.
Crossroads.
Julius Randle went to New York to make or break.
Yeah.
Paul George went to L.A., and with this ridiculous Laker-Clipper thing, if you don't succeed as a Clipper, you're probably just going to be an also-ran for the rest of your career. A guy who never met your potential.
Yep.
And I think now we're seeing that he's doing that. Tyrell Tyrell says, why do you bring up Michael Jordan in every NBA conversation? Shut up, fool. Okay, well.
Okay, I don't know that you bring up Michael Jordan in every conversation, first of all.
The motherfucker is the best NBA player ever.
Yeah, I mean.
I was talking about confidence. And Michael Jordan is known as this guy. And throughout his career, he was known as this guy who had unwavering belief in his ability.
Yeah.
He quit basketball to go play baseball because he thought he could get to the majors, and he did.
And then promptly came back and still dominated the league.
Even when he was wearing the number 45.
Yeah.
I think Michael Jordan, I think Kobe Bryant, I think Shaquille O'Neal.
The best of the best.
Always believe they're the best of the best.
Even when it's not going in.
Yeah, I don't think I bring him up in every conversation. Dude, even if I did, he is the most influential athlete, arguably, of my entire life.
And by the way, it should be said that what separates the best of the best from the best of the very good is confidence. Is hey,
yeah.
If it's Kobe going, he had that run of games where he's shooting like 40, 50 times a game on his own, and he's making like 18 or 20 of those shots, and he does not care about the ones that don't go in. He cares about the ones that he is making. And I think that, I guess I don't know this, but I really do truly hope for Paul George's sake that he's a guy that is finally starting to figure out that they're going to make or break with him as a team. They are going to live and die by Paul George and Kawhi Leonard doing what they do. So why would you not let it fly? Because you're one of the best shooters in the league. You're one of the craftiest players in the league. Like, you can do it.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Couple more Paul George comments. Ian says PG was in the MVP race in OKC. Well, it wasn't it the second year that he had that career year scoring?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with the OKC time. Like, the issue was, once again, that Paul George had said that he was going to play a long time and he loved OKC and Russ was everything. And, he put up this whole... he basically gave all these expectations that he was going to stay there, and then he flipped him the bird and went to L.A. And so it rubbed a bunch of people the wrong way. It made him look like a complete idiot.
And the way he structured his contract, I'm going to keep money free, and, then I'm going to screw you and leave early. It's just, it's not that he wasn't, and I don't quite remember if he was in the MVP race or not.
I think he's always a fringe MVP candidate. It's just a matter of where he's at and where he's at in comparison to the other usual suspects on any given year. This year, his name is not even in the conversation.
Year one in OKC was 2017, 2018. He had a down year for him, 22 points a game.
Okay.
And his 3-point percentage he shot 40%. He's an elite shooter.
He is, yeah.
Year two, 28 points a game and a career low in 3-point shooting. It was 38%. So he did a lot of his damage from two, which there's nothing wrong with that.
All the best, dude.
And then he's been in LA for the last 2 years, and his numbers have slumped.
Yeah.
21.5 points, 23 points. But his shooting percentage, do you realize he's shooting 50% from two?
Yeah. He's a great shooter, man. There's no doubt.
44% from three this year.
And so that's why I say, you look at
Lord.
So if you think about it, if you're a Jazz fan listening to this conversation, you're listening, to those numbers and the fact that PG's shooting 50% from two, and what did you say from three this year?
44%.
44% from
on
three.
7.5 threes a game.
I mean, that's elite shooting. But then, I think about, and this is really the difference, I feel like, between the Clippers and the Jazz. The Jazz mindset on shooting is totally different than the Clippers mindset on shooting. The Jazz are just simply saying, hey, we're going to throw up 53s a game, and we're just going to count on the fact that we're going to make 20 of those.
The Jazz essentially don't do anything that doesn't help them shoot more threes.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that as a critique or a negative. I'm just saying mindset-wise, when we talk about, hey, who's going to be in the Western Conference Finals? Who has the best shot? Like, who who can we confidently say is going to be there? I can't confidently say the Jazz are going to get to the Western Conference Finals because I feel like finally Bogdanovich is hitting his stride this season, and I feel like as a team they've gotten past this stretch of games where they played, they had that battle with the Suns, and then you lose to the Wizards, and then you have a nice bounce back against the Thunder. But the cool thing is the game within the game, watching Bogdanovich's improvement and everything, I just feel like they're in a much better place now than they were like 2 weeks ago, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's a lot of people commenting on Paul George. Williams says the 2 years in OKC were a complete waste.
Mm-hmm. It did more damage to his career than it did good. There's no doubt about that.
I would agree with that. Hello. Marcus also says his career's never been dead. You guys are over the top on this.
We didn't say his career was dead.
I'm not saying that he went to OKC to die. What I'm saying is it did damage to his reputation. The way that he went, do you not remember like the cigar smoking pool party that they had to announce that Paul George was not going to the Lakers and was going to the OKC and hey, I'm leaving a bunch of money on the table. And,
he tried to play a hero to the fans, dude.
Yeah.
And you're not a hero. You're a guy that played the system for your own game, which is fine.
Yes.
Frankly, I respect that. That's what our country's about. Hey, we're doing things for our own game. Paul George clearly wanted to go to LA and play. I can't for the life of me understand why you wouldn't want to play with LeBron James, the best player on the face of the planet. But hey, we all make choices in life. So
when you're a kid from LA, and you don't want to go win a championship with the Lakers, think about that. If they had Paul George, they would have won back-to-back championships.
Bro, this is the DeMar DeRozan conversation, bro.
Yes.
DeMar DeRozan's an LA guy. He's been stuck in San Antonio for, 3 seasons now or whatever it's been?
Yes.
The guy needs to get the Laker uniform on his back as soon as possible.
I know that the Lakers are a hot-button conversation in this
of course,
right?
Of course.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a Laker. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a Knick or a Celtic or nobody wants to be a Chicago Bull, but you get my point. There's nothing wrong with wanting to play in a major market for one of the marquee teams in this league. And frankly, that's why it is so surprising when you see guys that are not able to win in that spotlight. It speaks volumes about their intestinal fortitude and who they are and their character. And you look at guys like Devin Booker. Devin Booker has made no secret about the fact that he has desire to be a Laker.
Wet like on book.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Why would you not want to be a Laker?
There's nothing wrong with that. And Kemba and Kyrie wanting to leave Cleveland to go to Boston was completely a rational thought. But he was such a dick in Cleveland that it was an unceremonious exit for him as a Cav.
Yeah.
And he did so poorly in Boston that he had to bring Sage to TD Bank Garden. That's not good.
Yeah.
So when you are Paul George and you say I've wanted to be a Laker my entire life, and then you raise the flag and you go over to the Clippers, maybe he needed some Sage. I don't know. But if Paul George had gone to the Lakers and won a ring, we would not be having this conversation right now.
Any questions that Anthony Davis is a Hall of Famer?
None. Zero.
Just
Zip.
saying.
And there's nothing wrong, and that's why when we talked about these super teams yesterday, there's nothing wrong with wanting to win championships. And we need to stop vilifying guys like Kevin Durant or LeBron James or Kyrie Irving or any of these other guys that want to play with their friends. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing. Gabe, not Gabe Ledley. Gabe says, all you guys do is talk about superstars. For once, go deeper than the surface cursory NBA conversation. Cursory is a good word. Cursory is a good word.
So, okay.
Do we not have in-depth NBA conversations? See, this is how you know we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Because we get fans who are like, hey, do you guys ever talk anything other than NBA?
Do you guys watch the games?
Have you guys ever watched an NBA game?
So wait. Let me just wait. So wait. Did we not specifically talk about Ersan Ilyasova, Matt Thomas, Uni on the Jazz? Did we not talk about all their depth?
All the things
recently.
that Aaron Gordon does for the Nuggets. All
Aaron
the
Gordon,
things,
like,
all these intricacies on Paul George's career.
Like,
what cursory conversation?
A cursory conversation would be the Jazz radio broadcast last night during the game.
Oh my God.
Talking about, well, who do you think is dangerous in the West?
No, and I like David Locke. I think he does. Locke is generally a good basketball guy. He does not know that Lou Dort, or he got confused. Locke said last night on the broadcast that Lou Dort, I can't remember where he said he went to college. I think he said he went to college in France. Lou Dort went to ASU.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But it's not like we're sitting here like, oh yeah, the Nuggets, it's really unfortunate the Nuggets lost Jamal Murray. We'll see how they do in the playoffs. And LeBron's really good. All right, let's talk baseball. Boy, that Mike Trout sure can swing a bat. Like, that's a cursory surface level conversation.
Yeah.
Probably too much.
It's fine.
Anyway, real quick, if you're watching the show right now, please give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe. Sean says, to be fair, Kawhi made the same choice. I know they're in two different situations, but still, no, Kawhi did not make the same choice. Kawhi won rings and MVPs in San Antonio, then had that shot against Philly where the ball hit the rim 37 times before it fell in to win Game 7. And then, oh, by the way, Klay Thompson's knee blew up and KD's Achilles snapped, and the Raptors won a championship with Kawhi Leonard. And he's never going to be viewed as the problem.
Is this the dagger?
Yeah.
The ball hitting the rim 6 times. But Paul George is never going to be the reason that a team won a championship until he's the reason that a team won a championship. Kawhi is minted.
Yeah.
He's clutch. He's not scared. He performs at the highest level.
And he's a freaking weirdo.
And he's from Southern California and wanted to play in LA, and he wanted to be a Clipper.
Yeah.
So he went to the Clippers. With all due respect, Sean,
I just don't think that, and this is just an observation based on like how the two different situations played out. I don't think anybody gives a rat's ass where Kawhi Leonard plays basketball.
No.
I really don't think anybody cares.
No, I don't either.
I think that people respect Kawhi Leonard because he's won the championships and the MVPs, and he's known as a defensive stalwart, and he's this great player. But I don't think anyone gives a damn about where he plays. I think people care what Paul George does for whatever reason. It's almost like Paul George is just like a more relatable figure
because he puts himself in that situation. He talked a lot of junk when he went to OKC.
Yeah, and you remember the D Wade interview. You remember the D Wade interview that we all saw.
Yes.
So it just is. I don't know, man. I don't think that Paul George has some proving to do. That's the simplest way to put it. He's got proving to do. He needs to win. He needs to do some things and solidify himself as a winner in this game. And I think there will be questions until that happens.
Hey, real quick, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe here on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, please hit the like button. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. I want to talk about this Mark Cuban thing. Mark Cuban talking to ESPN about the build of the NBA playoffs this year. And you may know that the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds are going to essentially play playing games to see who the seeds are.
And I agree. I love this concept.
Actually, it's 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, I love this concept.
6th.
Yeah.
7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th teams are going to play playing games to see who's the 7th and 8th seed. Mark Cuban says this is a disaster. He said, quote, "I get why the NBA is doing it, but if we were going to be creative because of COVID, we should straight up do 1 through 20 and let the bottom 4 play in. This is the year, particularly to do it since the 10-game cut from 82 to 72 games because of the pandemic. We're in the conference.
Yeah.
So you lost 10 conference games.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Now, I like the play-in system, but I've always asked this question, and I said this last year too. Why not just let everybody in the playoffs and have a tournament? Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
Brings more eyes to the TV, it keeps teams like Chicago, Orlando. You look at the Phoenix last year, who won every game. They go 8-0 in the bubble, and
beat the Clippers doing it
and missed the playoffs.
Yeah,
you should have let everybody in so that the bottom tier of teams The Nets, the Knicks last year. The Nets were not good
I
last
think,
year.
though,
The Knicks, all those teams in.
Yeah, I think the problem with that, though, on the other side, is that devalues the regular season and having something to play for.
Yeah, but this isn't a regular season. This is an irregular season.
I guess.
Because but to Cuban's point, I mean, you lost 10 conference games.
Yeah, but yes, that definitely has a big effect on the close races. But like in the East, it's a two horse race. We're not sitting here saying that it's not like the West where basically from the 3 seed down you're separated by like 2 games. So I don't know. Like I like the concept of the 1 through 20 thing. I get what he's saying, but at the same time, I'm still a big believer in the idea that you have to get the job done in the regular season or you don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
But his other point, and I've said this on this show, the worst part, Mark Cuban to ESPN, quote, the worst part of this approach is that it doubles the stress of the compressed schedule. Rather than playing for a playoff spot and being able to rest players as the standings become clear, teams have to approach every game as a playoff game to either get in or stay in the top 6. And I think this is the part, and we've talked about this, that you cannot, if you're the Lakers, if you are, if you're the Mavericks, think about all of the teams that are not the Nuggets, that are not the Jazz.
Yeah.
That, like these teams that are, 4, 5, 6.
Portland.
You cannot have health nights.
Yeah.
You cannot rest guys like Royce O'Neal.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to sit guys to keep them healthy and fresh for the playoffs, and you've compressed 72 games into a very small window, and so you're looking at Jamal Murray. You're looking at guys like LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
They don't have the time to rest those guys. And so we're seeing major injuries happen because you've played so much basketball in such a tight window with not months off to rest and recover. And I agree with him. I think this schedule has put far more leverage on the NBA body than it should have.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's...
Yeah. There's no disputing it. I don't even think it's in question. I just think that... I think that, again, this whole idea of, hey, this is a one-off year, and how do we maximize or like how do we approach it in the best way possible? I think there's always going to be pros and cons to it. But I guess my thing is where I come down on it is that I would rather send the message that, yes, this is a different year, but yes, it's still important that you're winning in the regular season. I think that to me is what the NBA has always been about. And I think that they're trying to, the reason that they did this whole play-in system is because they're trying to find the middle. They want to still send the message of support to win in the regular season, but they also want to say, hey, if you're the 10 seed, you still got a shot. You still have an opportunity to get in. You're just going to have to do it in a very different way. And so I guess that for a team like the Jazz, let's say, or the Nets or Philly, those are the number 1 teams in the league right now, those 3. There's no incentive for you to be the number 1 team if everybody's getting into the postseason anyway. Who gives a damn? Like, what does it even matter? I mean, outside of seeding, I guess, but who's to say how they would handle seeding in a 1 through 20 format,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just the thing you got to deal with this year. It is what it is.
I agree. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and a like here on YouTube. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, please get to themontyshow.com, MONTY, themontyshow.com, and give us a subscribe on YouTube.